Hi, my name is Rachel and you're watching the Rachelistic channel. Happy New Year, even though it is a little bit late to be saying that in this year, but still Happy New Year. So I hope that all of you watching had a good New Year's Day, and I hope that you have a good 2022. So to start this new year off, I'm going to be talking about executive dysfunction. As you'll soon find out, executive dysfunction is the reason that this video is out a week later than it was supposed to be. But anyways, if you're neurodivergent or you suspect that you are, then you've probably had many moments in your life where you have maybe tried to start a new routine or a goal, a New Year's resolution, but it just never seemed to work out. You just never seemed to really follow through on it, or maybe you just kind of gave up halfway through. Maybe you've thought of yourself as like a failure or as lazy because you can't seem to keep up with your neurotypical peers. Well, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. You probably just have executive dysfunction. Well, what's that, you might be asking? Well, we're about to find out. So to understand executive dysfunction, you're first going to need to understand executive function. So executive function is kind of an umbrella term for the mental skills that are used in everyday life. So to do things like planning, setting goals and achieving goals, getting things done, like following through on things, prioritizing, decision making, and so on. So the three main areas of executive function are one, working memory. Working memory is it's like short-term memory, but it's really like keeping things in your head or in your memory to use in the near future. So for example, if say you get like a voice message and someone tells you their phone number so that you can call them back, you remembering that phone number before you dial it into your phone to call them back is using your working memory. The second area is cognitive flexibility or flexible thinking. So that's being able to change your behaviors in response to what is happening in your environment. So for example, say you plan to have cereal for breakfast, but then you find out that there's no more milk left. So cognitive flexibility is being able to like change your plans and like say, okay, since there's no milk, instead I'm going to have a bagel. So it's really just being able to kind of like change your plans, change your behaviors with kind of the changes that are going on around you. And it's also being able to kind of shift your attention between tasks and being able to go from one thing to the next thing without like any kind of pause or something in between. And so the third area is self-control. And so that's just, being able to control your emotions, your impulses, and not just do whatever you want whenever you want. So yeah, basically executive function is responsible for skills like paying attention, organizing, planning, prioritizing, following through on tasks, understanding different points of view, regulating your emotions, and self-monitoring, which is like keeping track of what you're doing. So executive dysfunction is, as you can probably tell by its name, is having struggles with your executive function. Your executive function is not functioning very well. Yeah, I don't know why I did that. But yeah. So some examples of what executive dysfunction looks like is one is time blindness. So that's having trouble planning for and keeping future events in mind. So it's kind of just like having troubles with time management. You don't always know how long something might take, or you don't know like when you should do things or how to structure your day so that you're doing things properly. And yeah, just managing your time. Yeah, it also looks like having difficulty stringing together tasks for long-term goals. So, one example that I could think of from my life with this is I have tried to write so many novels in my life, and I've never finished any of them. Mostly because I didn't know, like, I just kind of had this idea. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna write a novel. And so then I just start writing, and I don't, like, I never kind of think about, like, all the steps that it takes to actually, like, write a novel. I just kind of just start, and then I get, like, halfway through, and then I'm, like, bored with the idea, and or I just feel like this is just like I don't know what I'm doing, so then I just give up and never finish the story. So like yeah, so having difficulty stringing together tasks for long-term goals is kind of what that looks like. Like you having a goal that's like but you don't really know how to get there. You have trouble like really figuring out like your timeline to get to that goal. So yeah, executive dysfunction. It also looks like having trouble organizing. So, organizing your time, like with time management, which I just talked about, or struggling with organizing your space. So, like having trouble with clutter. So, like maybe you have a lot of clutter or you have a lot of trouble like putting things back once you're done using them. It's kind of just stuff everywhere. It can also look like having trouble controlling your impulses or your emotions. So, like, struggling with your self control. And, like, you may struggle to, like, manage your emotions or, like, deal with your frustrations. So, like, say if you get, like, really angry, you don't really know how to manage that. So, you just kind of, like, start hitting things or breaking things or just screaming at everyone because you're so angry and you don't know how to deal with that anger. Even if you're happy, you're just so happy, you just don't know what to do with yourself and you're just jumping off the walls. It also looks like having difficulties analyzing or processing information. So it may take you longer to like process text or like speech. So, for example, if you're like reading an article, maybe you may have to like read over certain paragraphs or something over a few times before you actually fully process what it's saying and you like understand it. Like you may understand all of the words that's in the article, but once they're put together and then you're trying to figure out what it's actually trying to say, so that time that it takes you to process it is probably longer than the average person. And it's the same thing with speech, or it could be with speech. So, like, for example, me talking in this video, maybe it's taking you longer to understand or like process what I'm saying. So you might just be hearing me talking, and then you're like, wait, what is she actually saying? So then you have to like rewind and like re-listen and be like, oh, okay, I got it now. So yeah. Executive dysfunction can also look like having difficulties with paying attention. So you may get easily distracted by things, or you just really may struggle to like pay attention, maybe like zone out a lot, or just get bored really easily. It can also look like being very forgetful and like forgetting things. So maybe you forget to pay bills, or you forget to clean, or maybe you forget to turn in assignments. I don't know. Just being forgetful is kind of self explanatory. And my last thing I have here on my list is that it can look like feeling easily overwhelmed by tasks and like procrastinating on things a lot. So, like, for example, if you're in school and your teacher tells you that you have a new assignment that you're gonna have to do, maybe you start to like immediately feel overwhelmed before really knowing what this assignment is or like what you have to do or figuring out the tasks that you need to do to get the assignment done. You're just get overwhelmed just by the thought of having an assignment. Yeah, and then procrastination also goes into that because you may procrastinate on doing things that you get overwhelmed by, which I definitely do. So if you do that, you're not alone. So if you've watched my video on ADHD, then you're probably thinking, okay, all of these things about executive dysfunction, it's sounding a lot like ADHD. That's because a lot of the traits for ADHD are traits of executive dysfunction. So a part of ADHD is having executive dysfunction. but it is possible to have executive dysfunction without having ADHD. So, just to make that simple, everybody who has ADHD has executive dysfunction, but not everyone who has executive dysfunction has ADHD. When I was doing research for this video, I started getting confused because I was like, wait a second, this is all sounding a lot like ADHD. How do I know that I have ADHD or if I just have executive dysfunction? Like, how do I know that I am autistic with ADHD or am I just autistic with executive dysfunction? So, in order to find that out, and if you're also questioning whether or not you have ADHD or just executive dysfunction or both, then this is what I suggest you do. First of all, look at the diagnostic criteria for ADHD and see if you have enough traits to be diagnosed with ADHD. So, yeah, I have a video literally all about that. I think I'm going to link it up here and so that you can watch it if you are having these same questions that I did. Once you've gone through all of the diagnostic criteria for ADHD and you find that if you find that you do have enough traits for ADHD, then you probably have ADHD and executive dysfunction. But if you are looking at the traits but you don't have enough to be diagnosed, then look at the signs for executive dysfunction only. And if you relate to a lot of the things about just executive dysfunction, then you probably just have executive dysfunction. It's a lot of words, it's a lot of things going on, but just bear with me. So once you've gone through all of that stuff, then you should probably know if you have ADHD or just executive dysfunction. When I did it and I went through the ADHD symptoms again, it was confirmed, I guess, that I do have ADHD and executive dysfunction together because that's how it works. So now I guess you want to know what types of people have executive dysfunction if it's not just those with ADHD that have it. I have a list here of people who may experience executive dysfunction. So first we have autistic people. We have those with conduct disorder, people with OCD, people with schizophrenia. Why do I feel like I'm not saying that right? Schizophrenia. I don't know, but they can have it too. People who have fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, people with learning disabilities like dyslexia, dyscalculia, I figured out how to say it, or dyspraxia, and any type of learning disability. People who have depression disorders or anxiety disorders, people with traumatic brain injuries, people who have addictions, so drug addictions, alcohol addictions, people who have dementia and Alzheimer's, people with brain tumors, people who have chronic stress, if they have lots of stress continually, can definitely develop executive dysfunction. And also people who have a lot of sleep deprivation. I can see from this list, it's quite an extensive list. Quite a lot of people can have executive dysfunction, a lot more than I thought when I started researching for this video. So it's not quite as rare, I guess, as one might think it is. So now that we know kind of what executive dysfunction is and who experiences and what the different and what it looks like, let's find out some things that we can do about it. So I came up with some tips for executive dysfunction. These are just some things that I kind of came up with / found online, just things that I do that have helped me, and also things that I saw that I was like, oh, I should probably do that because that seems like it would be helpful. It's not a very long list, so if I learn about any more tips to help with executive dysfunction, then I will definitely make another video to share them with you all, because I'm not trying to keep this for myself. I'm trying to help people. But for now, these are the tips that I found. My first one is to use a visual calendar or a planner to help you with scheduling your time and making plans and stuff. Having a calendar app on your phone is helpful. It will be helpful because we always have our phones on us. I use a physical planner, and I also use the Timo app, which is a calendar app for that was made specifically for neurodivergent people. So pretty cool. If you've never checked it out, you should. Having checklists also really help when it comes to planning your day and stuff. So I use checklists of like a to-do list kind of what I need to do every day. That's what I write in my planner. So that when I'm like sitting down, I'm about to do like work or do something, I have a list of like what I'm trying to do that day so that I can just go through it and check off what I've done. Also having checklists for tasks or like routines or whatever that you need to do during the day, that's what I put in my Timo app. So like for example, I have like underneath the get ready for the day, whatever it's called, um event in my Timo app, I have a checklist of everything that I need to do. So like picking out my clothes, taking a shower, washing my face, etc., etc. I have a whole list of that so that I don't forget to do things and so that I don't try to just skip things because I know that if I skip things, then I'm just gonna feel gross in the day and then I'm gonna be like, why did I do that? I'm just gonna feel gross and unproductive and it's just a terrible idea. So having it there helps me do it. Another thing I do when it comes to scheduling is I make sure to schedule time to kind of like stall or I guess like transition between tasks because switching between tasks can be difficult with executive dysfunction. So yeah, I just schedule that in. For like one of the things I schedule is like time to play games between like journaling and like breakfast so that because like I know that I'm not gonna want to immediately just get out of bed and leave my room to make breakfast. It's like ugh, I don't want to do that. So I just schedule in time to play games for like 20 minutes and then once I'm done, then I feel ready to get out of bed and get on with my day. And another thing with scheduling is to make sure that you write down your events or plans or whatever is happening, appointments, as soon as you hear about them. This is why it's helpful to have a calendar app so that as soon as you hear about it, you just put it on your phone immediately so that you don't have to try and remember like you have a dentist appointment at 2 p.m. on the 31st of the month. Like, that's too many numbers to remember. So just put it in your phone immediately and then you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to try and remember it until you get home and write it in your calendar or something. Like, just do it straight away. So another tip I have is to plan your breaks during like your schoolwork or work if it's possible, depending on what you do for your job. But yeah, so like when I was at school, when I was in university, one thing that really helped me get through all of my assignments and readings and notes and whatever it is I was doing was that I used the I don't know if there's a specific name for this method, but I did 40 minutes of work and then a 10-minute break, and I just did that for however amount of time that I was doing schoolwork for that day. So yeah, and that really helped me a lot to like get through readings because I was a psychology major and it's just all readings. It's just so many readings, reading the textbook, reading papers, reading studies, just reading, reading, reading. If you want to go into psychology, I hope this doesn't discourage you because it's very interesting. There's interesting readings. It's just a lot of readings, and so having 40 minutes of work time to like really focus and then 10 minutes of break, it really helps because like it's not like I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna study from 1 to 3 and then it's just like great, I have to study for like 2 hours straight. No, you do 40 minutes and then you take a 10-minute break and then you do 40 minutes and then you take a 10-minute break and it works and the time just flies by. It really does. So I suggest you try that out. Another tip I have is to ask or write down instructions that are being told you verbally or like ask to get them written down for you, since one of the things about executive dysfunction can be like having like a slower processing time of like speech and stuff. So it can be really difficult if someone's giving you a lot of instructions verbally and then you don't have it written down to like reference when you're trying to do this thing. So if ever someone's giving you instructions verbally, or if you're trying to get directions to somewhere or something, like just write it down in your phone or ask them to write it down for you on a piece of paper or something, so that you can do whatever it is that you need to be doing, and you don't need to be constantly ask them like, what do I do next, what do I do next, what do I do next. So yeah. Another tip is to break down your long-term goals into shorter ones. So whenever you have like a long-term goal that you're trying to do, try like sitting down. If you have any time, find a time, sit down and just write down like everything that you need to do to get to that long-term goal. Just really like think about it. If you don't know exactly, then like research it, look it up, just try to find out exactly what you need to do to get there to the long-term goal, and then focus on the first thing that you need to do, and don't worry about the rest of the list. Don't try to skip ahead. Just focus on the first thing that you need to do and do it. And that probably sounds a lot easier said than done, but it can be really easy to get overwhelmed by all the things that you have to do for a long-term goal, or even just the thought of like having a goal to do something like so far in the future. It can get really overwhelming. So just break it down and focus on the first thing. And then once you do that, then you can go to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and then you can reach your long-term goal. That's something that I'm trying to do. So yeah. And then so my last tip of the day is to take like max 5 minutes each day before you start your schoolwork or your work or whatever, just to like declutter your space. If it's really cluttered, just take a few minutes to declutter. It doesn't have to be like super long, like max 5 minutes. You can literally like turn on your favorite song. It's probably less than 5 minutes. Turn on your favorite song and just declutter while it's going, and then once it's done, you can stop. You don't have to do anything else. And you can just get on with your day. Clutter means like less motivation and less productivity. Even if you are a person that's really disorganized, like just seeing disorganization can still make you unmotivated and less productive. So just taking that small amount of time every day to just declutter can really help with your productivity. This is another thing that I am trying to do. I mean, I do try to declutter kind of my desk before I start doing stuff. So, but yeah, I do know that like when my desk is super cluttered and I don't feel like doing anything, like I don't even want to look at it, I'm just like, nope. So, just taking those few minutes a day can really help you with feeling more motivated to do stuff and being more productive. And so that's all the tips that I have so far, and I hope that they are helpful to you, and I hope that they help you, do things and get things done, follow through on things, schedule your day. So that's it for this video about executive dysfunction. If you learned something new, then please hit that like button so that I know that this video has been helpful and educational to people. If you have any questions or comments, then go ahead and put them in the comments below so that I can see what you guys want to say and what you're saying, and reply. So I can reply to what you have to say. Yeah. And finally, if you are enjoying my videos, if you like seeing my content, then go ahead and hit and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you know when I post my next video. As always, stay Rachelistic, or whatever your name is, istic. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.